So how do you think Clinton will fight with Trump at the final stage of this election campaign?
Well, I think that she will continue to do what she's been doing, which is to take the high road, that is not to engage in the name calling and the sort of casting negative aspersions. She will continue to talk about the issues and talk about the importance of this election for Americans. I mean, I think it's a clear choice of who is most qualified for the job, and between these candidates, it's clearly her.
Is getting expats to vote a challenge? And if so, how do you encourage them to vote when they're far away from home?
Well, there are many issues that affect Americans wherever they are in the world. Things like global trade, things like taxation, health care, Social Security. I mean, a lot of issues that are important to Americans anywhere in the world. And those will be significantly impacted by any election, including this one. One thing that's very important about this election is that whoever becomes president will be in a position to name Supreme Court nominees, and that is something that has a long-term, long-lasting effect on laws in our country. So if somebody is overseas now but intends at some point to be back, or if they have relatives living in the U.S., or even just still have an interest in seeing our country take the right direction, this is something that is really of great significance. So it's not that hard to explain this to Americans living overseas. They don't need to be convinced. And I think most Americans appreciate the opportunity and the right to have a voice in our U.S. politics.
There's been a lot of aggressive campaigning from both sides. How easy will it be to forget the negative statements and work with the other party to move the country forward?
I guess I have to say that luckily the media and Americans often have a short memory when it comes to these kind of things. Once the campaign is over, it's relatively typical that these sort of heightened tensions of the campaign calm down and everybody kind of gets on with the business of doing what they need to do, governing the country, and talking about how to fix the problems at hand.
Okay. With all the scandals in the news, how have you been able to redirect the conversation to more important matters such as economic policy, foreign policy, education, and healthcare?
I think in some ways Americans living overseas have an advantage in this because we're not bombarded by constant campaign ads and the media and the press every minute the way you are in America during a presidential campaign. So it's a little bit easier for us to sort of look at it more from the question of what are the issues and what are the real substantive problems that need to be solved. There are certain issues which directly affect overseas Americans, specifically taxation, health care, and these are things that actually in many cases both Democrats and Republicans who live overseas are in agreement about because they affect us in ways that don't affect people living in the U.S.
What do you think of the 3 presidential debates? And which one do you think Clinton did best and why?
I think Trump really did a really bad job. I mean, I think he maybe alienated more people than he won over. So I think she did very well. So I think she won all 3. I would say perhaps the second one was she really looked the best because she really was in command of the issue. She didn't get rattled by his personal accusations and by his dredging up old history that wasn't really relevant to her. And she engaged well with the voters and the people who were asking her the questions. And he made a comment saying he wasn't going to answer that. He was going to defer until you wait and see, which to me is just so contrary to everything that we stand for and that our democracy has been built on for 240 years of peaceful and free elections and transfer of power. It just was amazing to me. I mean, my mouth dropped open when he said that because it's just really something that's never been said by someone at that level of a campaign. I mean, a presidential candidate. Really, I think that may have been the thing that if we needed one more reason not to support Donald Trump, I think that might have been it. And I don't anticipate there'll be any problems. I'm just saying that this is something that once again reinforces, my opinion that Hillary really is, the candidate that is qualified to or deserves and has the temperament to be president of the United States.